Hi, welcome to Edward Box Guitar Tuition. So I've got another classic album inspection here, and today I'm looking at Lizzy's 1976 Jailbreak album, which is 45 years old today. So for many people this is the definitive Lizzy studio album. What's the kind of story behind it? Well, Lizzy, they did 3 albums as a 3-piece on the Decca label with Eric Bell on the guitar. Then he left. Brian Robertson, Scott Gorham joined, and they did the Nightlife and the Fighting albums. Fighting made number 60 in the UK, but other than that they hadn't had any commercial success with their albums, so they were given one last chance by the label Vertigo to try and get it right, and I think they did. So what sort of marks out this album? They brought in producer John Alcock, who did a good job of getting sort of the sound better, and Gorham and Robertson by now taking the leaf off the track Wild One off the Fighting album with the harmony guitars. They come to the fore on this. And then this is where the Lizzy sounds like really comes to fruition. Let's have a look at the tracks. It was recorded December 75 to 76 in Rampart Studios in London. So I'm just looking at the old Wikipedia there. So the opening track, Jailbreak, this is like, a classic track. The album had a top album cover and, pulled out and, had a little story about the jailbreak. And that's really what the lyric's about. This is in the key of F sharp, for those who play guitar. You'll know there's kind of like certain riff shapes you can play in that key and get a certain sound, and it's something that's been exploited by rock bands for many years. And this is one of the first riffs to do that, really. So it's a great opening track, and it's a pretty well-known one. It gets played live a lot. So track number 2 is Angel from the Coast. So this is co-written with Brian Robertson. This has got a really cool kind of funky groove and funky riff. I really like this track. It's about like a hit man, or maybe it's a hit woman. It's a cool lyric, something that Phil Lynott does really well. And it's a classic deep cut. It's a track that's not very well known, but when you listen to this album, it definitely holds up. And really good second track. Then the third track, quite interesting story about this, is called Running Back. So this tune, it's actually got a bit of saxophone on it. It was chosen to possibly be a single, but the band got overruled. I don't think it's as good as the more well-known tracks, but I do like it. It's a nice catchy little ditty. I think I should sort of point out as well, really Jailbreak's a hard rocker, but Angel from the Coast isn't really, and Running Back certainly isn't. So Lizzy always had that kind of light and shade thing. It wasn't often that they kind of went in really hard and heavy, so to speak. Then track 4 is Romeo and the Lonely Girl. Again, another album cut. I'm not really keen on this track. I'm not so keen on the lyric as much. But side 1 finishes with Warriors. This is a great track. So this is on the Live and Dangerous album as well. It's got really quite moody track. It's got a really cool kind of harmony vocal section in the middle. Great riffing by Gorham and Robertson on this. And Phil Lynnott's lyric is about kind of rockers and drug taking and being like a warrior and a man, and hitting the hard stuff, which, when you see what happened to him, is kind of a bit sad, really. But it's a real gem, this track, and I love listening to it. So that ended the original side 1 of the album. I would say at this point, Lizzy are yet to kind of capture their live sound on record. Things improved when I got Tony Visconti in to produce them. But I think the band felt something. I remember Scott Gorham saying he never felt they really captured their live energy on a record. And I would say this is better than what's gone before in some ways, but although I maybe do prefer the Fighting album. But they weren't quite there yet with it. So side 2 opens with Boys Are Back in Town. There's no point in me talking about this track, we all know it. It's a brilliant song. I'd be a liar if I said I need to hear it again. I've heard it so many times, but I think there's several elements with this. You've got Phil Lynnott's lyrical style coming to the fore on this. Obviously the twin guitars of Gorham and Robinson. Their use of minor 7, major 7 chords in the verse, again, opening themselves out away from the typical power chords of rock and being more melodic. And then, of course, Brian Downey laying down his groove. Very underrated drummer, Brian Downey. Great feel, great pocket, and quite a distinctive sort of way of doing tom fills. So I've always loved his drumming. But that's, again, it's written by Phil Lynott. All the tracks in this album are written by Lynott, apart from Warriors is a co-wrote with Scott Gorham, obviously Brian Robinson co-wrote Angel from the Coast, and then there's Cowboy Song and Emerald. Fight or Fall, the next track, not into this track. It's kind of a softer track, but doesn't totally hit the spot for me. And then you've got Cowboy Song and Emerald finishing the album. So again, I don't really need to talk about these tracks really, because they're just totally staples of classic rock. Emerald, I think, is a pretty key track. It's got its triplet, so that 12/8 meter is beloved by hard rock and metal bands. It's something like Iron Maiden would nick a lot, and so on. So, but I think the Emerald shows the tightness of Gorham and Robinson's guitars. Their unisonizer harmony lines perfectly played, and then Phil Lynott indulging his passion for Irish history, and that's something, again, it's just totally unique to his lyrical style, the way he could spin tales of Ireland and tales of life and people and things like that. So this is a classic album. It's a classic Thin Lizzy album. I do sort of feel that it's not consistent enough compared to some other albums I really like. When later on in the year I'll do the Johnny the Fox album, and I prefer that. I think that's more consistent, but it's not as well known. This album's the only Thin Lizzy album to go gold in America, so that's 500,000 sales plus. So why didn't Lizzy get bigger? It's that classic thing, like UFO. Well, what happened on that tour? They're on the tour and Phil Lynott caught hepatitis, probably because of the way he lived his life, fast living. So the management, he was so poorly, they elected to send the band home, so they couldn't quite, they needed to be out there for 6 months or more to get the traction. So how many gigs did I don't know. When it came time to go back, probably on the Johnny the Fox album, or maybe it was after that, I'm not sure, Brian Robinson cut his hand at the Speakeasy in a fight the night before that, the tour. So that scuppered things. So basically, they kind of shot themselves in the foot, really, at the point when they absolutely had to be touring in order to get the traction in America. And I think that would have, what's the word I'm looking for? That would, come into play later down the line, because effectively the band actually split up because of debt. They weren't selling enough records to fund the lifestyle of the band, whereas if they'd had more success in America, they probably could have lived the kind of lifestyle Phil Lynott wanted to. But anyway, it was marking out of 10, it sounds controversial, but I'll probably give it a 7.5 out of 10. It's not an 8 or a 9 to me. But I just feel like the Romeo and the Lonely Girl and Fight or Fall they're just not quite up there for me. But I think what the album stands on the fact that it's got these 5 tracks that are on Live and Dangerous, Warrior, Cowboy Song, Boys Are Back in Town, Emerald and Jailbreak. They're absolute staples. But Live and Dangerous is probably the definitive, capturing of the band. Obviously, we'll cover that later on when it's its anniversary as well. But if you want to check out a Thin Lizzy album, this is a really good place to start. So Jailbreak, it's 45 years old today. Cheers, thanks.